The agenda of the video is you should able to write this answer. And this video is about labor codes. There's also a PYQ on labor codes last year 2024. That's it. We will go to the video. First, labor laws in India. See, labor laws is typically nothing but employer and employee relationship in organized sector. It typically does not cover an unorganized sector, though it has some provisions are there, but typically it excludes this labor laws. If you understand labor laws, what it covers, like workers' rights, safety protocols, social security, like a uniform they have to wear, their rights, their pensions, the safety, etc. You get this right. See, first in India, labor laws are typically in concurrent list, which means both the state and central they have the power to make it, but obviously central will do it. At present, we have 29 such laws. We have 29, and most of them are independence era. Most of them are 29. These 29 are independence era laws, not now. So since they are 29, and it has variations. But even state has its own regulations are there. These 29 laws empower the state governments to have their own nuanced rules. That's it. So that's it. So what central government understand is that to make it more friendly to more modern era, conforming to modern era standards, Center implemented 4 new labor codes. These 4 new labor codes, they are still not yet implemented because there is a lot of opposition is happening. So much of discrepancies are there. Okay, that's it. They're not implemented. See, first you understand this present. At present, we have 29 labor laws. In the entire country, we have 29 labor laws, and a lot of variations are there. Every state has its own laws, own variations. There is nothing as uniform law. So what is the problem with this 29 labor laws? Why the government wants to amalgamate these 29 labor laws into 4 new codes? Why 29 wanting to become 4? First thing is jobless growth, which means only service sector is growing, manufacturing sector is stagnant. Informalization of economy, which means a manufacturing company typically wants to employ not a permanent employee but from daily contract labor. The informalization of economy, which means they're not in the payroll. If you go to manufacturing, ask the employees list, they hardly has 100. Most of them are informal. They don't even exist in the papers. And obviously undeveloped manufacturing sector is also the reason, and lower female labor force participation rate. We only have 40%. Even gender gap report says that we only covered 40% of gender gap has been closed in India. See, another thing is some thought. We all know that government wants to increase the manufacturing because India failed to follow the lowest mode of economic development. We all talk about manufacturing, but have you wondered why? What do you mean by manufacturing? Which sort of level manufacturing government wants to include? Whether it is textiles, whether it is semiconductor manufacturing, or some assembly parts like electronic assembly parts, mobile phone assembly parts. What sort of manufacturing government wants to focus? So the government wants to focus typically on the labor-intensive manufacturing. Manufacturing typically has 2 types. One is labor-intensive and capital-intensive manufacturing. Labor-intensive manufacturing because it has high employment elasticity. Labor-intensive manufacturing has high employment elasticity. What do you mean by employment elasticity? Nothing but a industry typically have the ability to generate more employment, more jobs. That is called as labor-intensive manufacturing. For example, textiles, garments, agriculture, footwear, food processing, and most importantly, electronics assembly. These industries have the ability to create thousands of jobs, literal thousands of jobs. That much of potential these industries have. Government wants to focus on these industries: textiles, garments, agriculture, footwear, electronics assembly lines in manufacturing. most of our Indian mobile phones are, if you see, they typically has tag made in India. Made in India in the sense means they are assembled in India, because it has the ability to create, for example, production linked incentive. Production linked incentive typically the government, in reality favors labor intensive manufacturing. Banks typically favors labor intensive manufacturing, and other thing is capital intensive manufacturing. Capital intensive manufacturing is typically, though it is important for the economy and national security, but it does not create that much of jobs. It has low employment elasticity. Capital intensive manufacturing has low employment elasticity and high capital cost. May not suit India because India is a developing country and most of our engineers are absolutely junk. Even the VBox reports are the same thing. Only 51% of Indian engineers are capable of employability. Let's talk about junkies. Albeit it also capitalist manufacturing do stop brain drain. Of course, I didn't tell you what is capitalist manufacturing. See, for example, data centers, semiconductor manufacturing plants, they are all capitalist manufacturing. For example, if you see semiconductor manufacturing plants, it's a high capital cost. Semiconductor manufacturing plus high, literally billions are needed just to invest in a 10 15 crore 10 15 crore 30 crore. This is not the capital cost needed. Literally it needs billions, and it needs high, ultra skilled, not high skill but ultra high skill labor it needs. Semiconductor manufacturing, that's it. So for example, if a semiconductor manufacturing hardly employs 100 to 200 people. These 100 to 200 people are not low skilled but ultra high skilled. Even the cleanest semiconductor manufacturing has degrees, ultra trained, but it has low employment elasticity. For example, data centers, you all know data centers, just see in the YouTube, you want to understand the gist of it. Data centers, it hardly has 100 people up there. It hardly has 100 people, but it typically employs, the revenue it generates, it's tremendous, literally billions. A 10 acre textile garment factory may employ 100 people and generate maybe 10 crores. A capital intensive manufacturing like semiconductor plant, it also employs 100 people, but the revenue it generates literally in billions of dollars. Nvidia company, we all know Nvidia company. Nvidia, Apple, their focus is typically on, in America, this both countries are American companies, and their research and securities global capability centers primarily in America. But the employment generally, it's all capital intensive manufacturing. Nvidia semiconductor chips, capital intensive. Hardly 100 people work there, hardly 1,000 people work there. But it is richer than India. Its market capitalization is 100,000 times richer than India. Around 4 crore, 4 trillion or something, don't know exactly. That's what capital intensive does. I hope you got the gist. Capital intensive manufacturing. It has low employment elasticity, high capital cost, but it needs ultra skilled labor. Gives billions of dollars in tax revenue, but it doesn't give employment. That's it. So now you understand this. First, you understand the difference between the why 29 labor codes needs to be changed, why it is important for the government to focus on it, why we need 4 labor codes. Now we have to understand why the government wants to have new 4 labor codes. For this, we need to understand what are the problems in the old 29 labor laws and the associated problems of it. And the first thing is differential treatment in manufacturing and service sector. You must have seen that people who are working in software jobs, they have the ability to do even in the night shift. You must have experienced or seen in the movies. What about manufacturing sector? You hardly see them. You hardly see manufacturing a person employed in a manufacturing sector working in night shifts. Yeah, very ultra strict manufacturing sectors. Manufacturing sector. You see, if you understand why we have very ultra strict manufacturing rules, we can attribute the reason for our ephemeral past of socialistic era, or the socialistic past we are having. That's primarily the reason for it. Since at the time service sector is not that prominent, the laws are not that much strict. We have service sector grown so much, whereas because of the harsh, strict socialistic past mindset laws, it failed to get reflected on. And obviously our manufacturing sector is ultra weak, underdeveloped manufacturing sector, no employment. You can see the stats. And maximum working hours, if you in the manufacturing sector, only 10.5 hours of the maximum workers. Vietnam 12, China alone, no limit, communist country. So because of the lack of hardcore restrictions on maximum working hours, there is low productivity, and further accelerated by very strict manufacturing laws to do night. It's very difficult to do manufacturing in the night because of the strict laws. Restrictions on working hours, low earning, high poverty, low payments, obviously low. For example, in India, since manufacturing laws are so strict, if any employer wants to do overtime, the manufacturing sector is entitled to give him 2x the normal wages. For example, his day's salary is 100 rupees, they have to give him 200 rupees. That's cost prohibitive for the company. It's useless. Even so, it's actually the primary reason for that. Since there is a lack of restrictions on working hours and 2x normal wages, no one wants to do manufacturing in the late nights and overtime. So what is the manifestation of it? So what it done is that it inadvertently compelled the investors to invest in capital intensive manufacturing rather than labor intensive manufacturing. Like semiconductors, though it is employment, it gives tax revenues, but the employment elasticity is very minimal. Capital intensive manufacturing, and obviously discourage production. 2x normal wage not possible, low profit, low investment, and obviously low restrictions on employment. Women cannot do, they cannot be employed in manufacturing glass, petroleum. They cannot, it's actually not scientific, women. See, these laws are, framed in 1950s, 1960s. At that time, safety gear is very minimal. Safety gear minimal and rudimentary. So, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. working hours, prohibition in petroleum generation, manufacturing, glass, etc. perceived to be harmful to women. Though there is no logic is there. Lower female, lower FLPMBR, gender gap in wages is all. And obviously low female labor force participation rate. And this is the important thing. Even economic survey 2025 also discusses the same thing. Restriction on utilization of floor space. High floor space, we have high floor space per worker. It's actually you have to go to the socialistic past of ours. Even if you see in the capitalistic countries in the 1800s or 1900s, here at a time mostly it's labor intensive. In the labor intensive, workers typically clubbed together, very high, tight, packed spaces. Like in a single room, 30-40 will be there. Like a single small room, 30-40 people will be there, which is more than its capacity. It's like suffocation. It's more of like a suffocation for them. So to stop this, for the socialistic political leaders, what they have done is that they have put high floor space. 3.3, it's not needed that much number. That's it. High floor space. That much high floor space is not needed. What it led to? Ineffective utilization of land and low job creation inadvertently, obviously. And the thing is, lack of flexibility in hiring and firing. See, under the Industrial Disputes Act is one of the act in the 29 laws. Any industry which employs greater than 100 workers need prior approval from the government for retrenching the workers. For example, an industry wants to fire a person, he needs to contact the government, prior approval he needed, and the government has to approve him. It's a hardcore, tedious process. For removing a worker from an industry is a very difficult process in India. And that too we have labor unions. Labor union is a right. Extremely difficult. It is not typically conforming to the capitalistic ideologies. So what it led to? It led to dwarfism in manufacturing. Dwarfism, which means no manufacturing. Because of this, no manufacturing is going. A manufacturing plant is not typically, they're not really interested in employing more than 100 workers. Because of this thing, dwarfism in manufacturing, economies of scale concept. The bigger the industries, the product will be cheaper. Bigger industries, cheaper product. Economies of scale. Low productivity, no economies of scale, high product cost. Small industries, productivity low. Remember, the bigger the industry, the bigger the productivity will be, the bigger the employment. We need big industries, we don't need small industries. India need for example, China, India, it has large industries. That's why it's going. This small micro enterprises, they typically don't, their employability is low, their product cost is extremely high because they do not achieve economies of scale. That's what it led to. Informalization of workforce. So what companies are doing is this, though they employ. So as I told you earlier, industries greater than 100 workers, it need extensive approval from the government to remove a worker. So what the companies are doing or industries are doing is, they are not employing permanent employees. Most of them, they are contractual laborers or hardcore informal persons, which means they are giving salaries in day format, daily wages. Not an employee, there exists no employer-employee relationship in these things. Though 1,000 people will be there in the company, but in reality, on papers, exactly 99 people will be there. Exactly 99 will be there, and the companies do not need to. They have more freedom. If they employ just 99, they have more freedom to remove the workers, and they have more potential to do it. So that's why they're going information of workforce, which means they're not in the payrolls. They're unofficially there, but in reality they don't exist. They don't exist in the papers, So it led to low permanent employees. That's why PM Employment Generation Scheme, Rajdar Yojana, to make permanent employees, to make the informal dwellers formally recognized by the government EPFO contribution, and no low social security benefits, no health insurance, no pensions, no company insurance, etc. will be there. I hope you gather just simply. Industries not don't want to employ more people, because more people will be there, the more government laws will be there. It will lead to informalization of workforce. 90% of Indian workforce are informal. Also, contractual labors are increasing. Even government does employ contractual workers. And obviously, easier provisions for labor strikes. These existing 29 laws, how they are made is that they don't have potential for earlier negotiations. Negotiations not possible. Reason being that work can do strike any day, any time. No prior approval is needed. Because of this, companies are facing the problem of negotiation tables. First they do protest and they started negotiating. And that's it, mass casual did not recognize the strike. And low productivity is all generic points. And obviously GTR says that prolonged strikes damage workers alone. That's it. This is the gist of the article. I hope you like the video. That's it. Thanks. Share your opinions on the comment box.